Welcome everybody to another installment of our Signworld Owner Panel webinar series. We're glad you could join us today, and we've got a lot of information to share with you and give you a lot of opportunities to ask questions of these owners and hear from their real life experiences within the business. I'm joined by a great panel of owners and former owners, along with our corporate team here that are here to answer really anything and everything that you have to ask them. So with that, our webinar will be recorded today. We will be releasing this on YouTube as we usually do after the webinar is concluded. But the entire opportunity here that we have for the next hour is a Q&A panel. Each of our panelists are going to give you a little introduction to their business, and then we will open the floor to questions, giving everybody an opportunity to ask a question, and then we will circle back for another round as we can, based on the time that we have for today. And at some point throughout the webinar, Jack or Sheree will be bringing a few slide decks onto the screen just to give you some different examples of what some of these operations look like, some of the projects that they are working on, and some of the great stuff that they've done as sign companies for their clients. So with that, I'll give some quick introductions, and then we'll give everybody the opportunity to introduce their business. I'm your moderator today. I'm Dan Werner. I'm the VP of Operations with Signworld Corporate. I'm joined by Jack Werner, who is the president of Signworld. He'll share a little bit about his previous experience as a Signworld owner. But I'd like to kick it off with our owner panel. First, we have Randy Hammock. Randy, give us a little introduction to your business. And oh, you're on mute there, Randy.
Things happening.
There we go.
Randy Hammock, name of my company is E3 Signs. We're located in Loveland, Colorado. We've been in business since 2010, so about 14 years. We started out in a 1,500 square foot facility, and now we're 8,000 square feet. We have 8 employees, and our 2024 sales projections are 1.5 million. The biggest recent project that we had was for the city of Boulder, Colorado, and it was some entry monument signs into their city there. So, and that was about almost $500,000, just under. My background, I was an architect in a previous life, and then started looking around for something else to do, and we moved to Colorado in 2008, and 2010 joined the Signworld company family.
Join the family. That's great. A $500,000 project. Those are nice to have. A couple more of those, and
yeah, they are, and you know they're not real difficult. This was very interesting. You know, one we hadn't done before. They had like using railroad rails as the main supports, and you know what, I've learned a lot about welding, that kind of stuff, as far as it takes a lot of heat.
Well, very good. Well, thank you for the introduction to your business there, Randy. Let's go to Randy Risley out in Florida. Randy, give us an introduction to your business.
Hi, Randy Risley, all venue graphics and signs in lovely Pompano Beach, Florida, Fort Lauderdale area. And we've been in business about 8 years. We're currently in a 3,800 square foot facility, started off in about 2,650. Moved last year. It was crazy, but we made it, and things are doing pretty well. We've got 6 of us right now, looking to get back to 8. We lost a couple people, and we're scrambling. People is always your biggest challenge. Keeping them and finding new ones, we're always looking. My background was corporate automotive, General Motors, Bosch. Moved around a bit, came down here to South Florida, and we said, man, we like the weather down here, and we know we're moving again soon. So we looked for something different, and we were lucky to find Signworld. Great organization for us. Probably the best thing about Signworld is it's a family. And that's what I had when I worked for Saab many years ago. It was a great organization. You could talk to anybody. The same thing happens in Signworld. And I didn't know anything about signs, but I knew a bit about cars, and that's why we're here. And Signworld has treated us well in our 8th year.
Are you still having fun 8 years in, Randy?
More fun now than I was in the beginning. But I got to tell you, no matter how many years you go through it, you still sweat the mud sometimes because it's all about just keeping that wheel moving. And sometimes if you take your eye off the ball for just a second, you're scrambling. So it's not for the meek, but I wouldn't go back to working for the man. That's for sure.
Entrepreneurs are a rare breed. Well, very good. Thanks for that introduction to your business, Randy. Let's go to our newest owner on the panel, Miles Hefner. Miles, give us an introduction to Signal Signs and Graphics.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Miles Hefner, owner of Signal Signs and Graphics. I am in Santa Rosa, California, wine country. We're about an hour north of San Francisco, give or take. Like these two other great owners on the call, I've been in business for a long time, since the fall of 2023. Started in about August of last year, really got going in about October of everything. So we're about 6 to 8 months into business. My facility is about 2,700 square feet. I have 1 employee right now. My sales goal, I want to call it a goal for the year because I don't really have a lot of data to back it on, but my goal for this year is 500,000 in revenue. My biggest customer is one I'm working on right now. I'm doing a rebranding for a winery up here, and I think overall the project will end up being about $45,000. My background career. So before this, I was working in tech in the Bay Area. I did sales, account management, different client-facing roles for different enterprise sales and technology companies, and won't bore you with all the details there, but that's kind of where I came from.
Very good. It does 5 and closing in on 6-figure projects in those early years are good ones to get. So congrats on that project with the winery. And we'll go to Jack Werner, who's a former Signworld owner, president of Signworld now. Jack, give us an introduction to 3D signs and some of what you handle now with the corporate team.
I joined Signworld back in 1995 when we were a little bit different than we were today. We were more of a retail location, more banners and posters, things like that. We didn't have a digital printer. There was no such thing as the internet. It was yellow pages, and that came out once a year. Sometimes you're in business for months before even the yellow pages came out. Our pricing guide was 2 pages of written prices by the inch, by the letter. Really a very different business model than we had today. We're really focused on local business. I'm not thinking about regional and national customers, thinking about bigger projects. I started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee. End of the second year, I took over the space next door and expanded to 2,300 square feet. End of the third year, I took on a second building in the back of the parking lot, went to 3,500 square feet. End of the fourth year, I took on a third building and worked out of 3 different buildings, had 5,300 square feet. At the end of the 5th year, I evacuated building 1 and the space next door, evacuated building 3, moved next door to building number 2, and had 5,000 square feet under 1 roof. I ended up with a staff of 11 doing about 1.3 million in sales. I then sold my operation, joined Ken Kinn, our founder and former president, to learn his end of the business. I finished buying him out in 2014, 10 years ago, and I'm now the president of Signworld. When I answer questions today, if it goes to my experience, I'll speak there. If it goes to more the whole network, I'll speak there. If it goes more toward training and policy, I'll speak from there. My prior background, I ran a wholesale food distribution company, nothing to do with signs. Nobody in Signworld had prior sign experience. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway that had about 200 locations. You would think once the Subway is open, they're done. If you think back in time, Subway's logo used to be yellow and brown, then yellow and green, then yellow and, or yellow and black, and then yellow and green. Then they changed the font, they changed the outline. Every single sign inside now changes every 4 to 5 years for all 45,000 locations they have. So signs change more than people realize. Yeah, I think that's
It's a good, yeah, that's about it. Good overview there. Thank you, Jack. Well, very good. Well, let's jump into the Q&A portion of the panel discussion here today and open it to our guests. At this time for our guests, go ahead and start thinking of those questions that you want to ask these owners, the information, the feedback you'd like to get from them. Again, we'll go through the group, one question each, and then we'll circle back as time permits. And then again, we'll have those slide decks coming on the screen to give you examples of locations and projects as we work through this as well. So let's start first on the list here. I got Tony Ramos. Tony, go ahead and bring yourself off mute. Ask a question to our owner panel here.
Sure, yeah. Tony Ramos. I'm out of Clarksville, Tennessee, which is near Nashville. I'm retiring from the military and trying to figure out what's next. And yeah, I got a few questions, but I think the one I'll ask first is if somebody is to buy a Signworld affiliate that's already established, do they get to maintain that Signworld affiliation like under new ownership?
With that being more of a resale question, let's start off with Jack. Jack, talk a little bit about the resale process there and transfer agreements.
Well, first off, in Signworld, there are no rules you're required to follow. So as you being the owner of the business, you have complete authority of how the business gets sold, unlike a franchise where it has to say it's Signworld. Many of our operations will pass it off to the kids, and we'll put the kids through training. We have a number of second-generation operations in our system. We have had several where they've sold it off to their main employee, and we have what we call a legacy program, where we, for a very modest $10,000 fee, put those owners, the new owners, through the ongoing training and support that we give them, and they carry the business forward. We have many that sell it to a competitor in the market for market share, as this is manufacturing, and those end up going independently. But the ones that want us to help find a buyer, we will help coordinate that, and then the new buyer would pay a $45,000 transfer fee to join Signworld and get all the training and benefits that a new owner would get: the new owner training, the ongoing training, the protected territory, the group buying power. So again, whatever way you go, but if you were to buy an existing Signworld operation, you would then pay a $45,000 transfer fee to go through the new training and go from there.
So let's expand that question just a little bit there, Tony, for you. And let's talk a little bit about exit strategy, because there is the opportunity to sell. There is the opportunity to succeed it down. So let's start with Randy, 14 years in. Randy Hammock, have you thought about exit strategy? What does that mean to you? What are in your plans as you think towards the future?
Well, let's see, I just turned 61 in March. So yeah, I'm thinking I need to, slow down a little bit. And couple of options. I've got one of my sons is in the construction industry. He just came to work for us in January. So it's possible that he may want to take over the business. And so we could work on that. We're probably right now in more of a 2-year plan where I'm trying to make sure everything's in order. Gives me a chance to, look at the books and, just see what we can do to get the books in shape make the company be the best it can be for whoever takes it over. The second person, I have one key employee that if my son, didn't want to take the opportunity, I would offer to that employee next and go that route. Not quite sure, the structure of how to do that, because they probably wouldn't have enough cash on hand to purchase a business outright. So, we'd look at options then of maybe some owner financing and combination, they would definitely have to get some skin in the game. And if, nobody's interested within the organization, we'd go more traditional, looking outside to sell. But we're probably, looking, what is it, 2026, something like that. I got one more kid in college, and he should be done a year from this May.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Oh yeah. He's done, or he's on his own.
Very good, very good. Randy Risley, have you thought a little bit about exit strategy and some of what that may mean for your business here in the next chapter after you're done?
Every day. Some days more than others, but overall, recently we thought that we were about 3 years from now, and now we've kind of changed that plan because we're having a little bit too much fun. So we're looking now to see. We've got a 5-year stake, but I think we're going to do even more than that. Our plan is to empower our team to the point where we can just work on strategy only and let the team run it, which also makes a very good sellable business for that point where you want to sell. Because the last thing you want to be is the owner that's running everything, because then you can't sell it unless you're part of the deal. And so we really want to build our team to a point where our team runs it completely. And then we want to enjoy that for a few years and work on strategy and see just how much more we can build, because we're crazy builders instead of smart enough to just retire and go have fun. So right now we're at least 5 years out, and maybe longer. We'll see.
Yeah, very good. And Miles, very early on in the build of his business. But Miles, have you thought about exit strategy and some of what that means for you as you build your company?
Yeah, a little bit. So my horizon is 10 plus, and really I'm just focused on growth, right? But similar to what Randy just mentioned, I think a lot about, it's just me and one person right now, but like, where do we need to grow operationally? Like, what skills are we missing in-house that would help for like the next person, right? And then what could that lead to the next person? So I'm definitely more in the mode of thinking about how can I keep growing this business, growing revenue. But my ultimate goal is similar to what Randy just mentioned, is to build more of a fine-tuned machine that can operate without me, right? Eventually, so that I have the flexibility and the freedom to, continue to keep doing this and look at other growth opportunities. Or should I want to sell it, do that, right? But I have young children. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I've really loved getting out into the local community and meeting people, right? And talking with other business owners, talking with people at chamber events, B&I, all the stuff, right? And just learning more about the community. So I definitely want to keep doing this for a while and grow the business. And, I think I'll reevaluate as time goes on, but absolutely, that's either to sell or to have this thing humming along on its own at the 10 plus year mark would be an optimal point where then I could, decide what I want to do.
Very good. And one last thing to add here, Tony, just to that question in the conversation of exit strategy. Interestingly enough, when we get into new owner business training, the first topic that we talk about is exit strategy. You have to have a plan for what you want the business to look like at the end in order to get what you want out of it. And so there's a lot there of staging that and planning for the end, so that way you've got the ability to build it. So a lot there defined within exit strategy, but growth is the focus in those early years. That way you get that exit that you want. Very good. Let's go to Jonathan Williams. Jonathan, go ahead and bring yourself off of mute and pop a question up for these owners.
Hey guys, how are you? Jonathan Williams out of Atlanta suburb, Marietta, Georgia. And I am a lifelong sales and marketing guy, consumer packaged goods. Recently ran a subsidiary for Amazon that they shut down along with 40,000 other layoffs. And so have been thinking like, what's next? And rather take control of my future versus waiting for a company to tell me, you know, that they either want me or how long they want to keep me. And so, kind of vetting several different franchises, had a lot of questions, but you know, the two Randys just brought up a great point that I like to dig into a little bit. Both of you have been around or had your businesses 8 and 14 years respectively, I think. And I know Randy R is now talking about wanting to get to a point where it's a little bit more automated relative to being able to not be in the business every day, but working on the business strategically. And my question is, as I was looking at some of these other franchises, you've got an owner-operated model, you've got a semi-absentee model, and so forth. I understand this one's more of an owner-operated one that could eventually be semi-absentee. Have you guys chosen to stay in the business versus on the business as like kind of your style or your preference? Or is that just what it takes for 14 years and 8 years being in the business versus working on the business?
Yeah, very good, Jonathan. So let's start with Randy Hammock. Randy, talk a little bit about the early days of getting the business off the ground, the involvement that it required for you, and now 14 years in, sort of where you're involved in the business and time commitment, and then also that drive to be involved in certain things.
Right. Well, early on, we were really trying to get going during 2011, 2012. And as you know, we were still coming out of a recession from the 2008. And so, it was a rough couple of years. Eventually, I mean, it was probably 2 years on that we started cash flowing. But at the 5-year mark, we weren't, I actually kind of slowed down on going to the networking groups, and work was coming in through repeat customers. And then we got a couple of projects through cities, and somehow we became more of a parks and recreation and bike pass and pedestrian pass for cities. And we've done an extraordinary amount of those. They just turned out to be lucrative, and they pay their bills. Sometimes it takes them a while, but they always pay. So, and I've been involved, very much hands-on, and that's been on purpose. My golf game is not great, so I couldn't go that route. Didn't want to go that route, but anyhow, so. And then my background being in architecture and construction, we started going into more projects that just required, custom built signage, large monument signs. And then a lot of these trail projects, you got 5 or 10 miles of wayfinding signage, that you're driving equipment down, and it was turned out to be a lot of fun. Plus, a lot of the employees that I have and brought on, they're graphic designers and sign fabricators and not real, into this kind of work. So I've had to bring those guys in, train them in this, and trained my main guy that came on with us early on, and he's our main project manager. So he's at this point, 14 years in, he pretty much runs a lot of the operation. Now, I'm still around for day to day, I still have a lot of questions, and then just driving the business and, working on the business now, that's still, I probably still put in 40 hours a week, but probably not plus 40 anymore. Early on, it did require a lot of time, because we were building the business up, and I was out there doing sales and everything. Then we were coming in, working, making sure projects were being managed and brought on. So that took, quite a bit of time in the beginning. But the other part of it too was part of the reason for taking me longer to ramp up, with the recession was my background again was architecture and really wasn't, sales. So that was a totally different gamut trying to figure out where to sell, what to sell, what kind of signs we wanted to do. And at the end, it's led us back around to really, we bid a lot of projects. I'd say I don't know, 60 to 70% of our projects are bid projects through both, government and, general contractors. But, so I don't know if that answered all the questions, but.
Yeah, it sounds, to kind of summarize there, it sounds like, early days, it was more of a necessity for you to be involved. And then you sort of built your business around a model that required you to be involved because you liked the projects that you were taking on, and it just required more of your time investment into it. Now you've got, team sort of built there, but you love what you do, so you're still heavily involved.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Dan. I mean, I at first I was kind of wondering, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But now, I mean, I definitely love it. And, I still feel like, hey, I've got to, you got to do something. There's really you don't want to retire. You want to do something, as we get older, I've got to slow down. I was out there in the field, doing a lot of digging of footings and running shovels and teaching others how to do that. And now, it's like, can't do that as much. So
that's right. Well, very good. Randy Risley, how about for you? Talk a little bit about time involvement and some of what keeps you heavily invested and involved today.
Well, certainly in the beginning, it's all in 100% because you have one other person working for you and he can't do it all. So you find yourself out doing installs, and of course you're doing the sales, because without that, nothing happens. And you're working on production a little bit. If you hire a really good person for design and production, then you can focus mostly on the customer and the install. And at some point, if you're smart, you hire somebody who's very good at installation, and you bring him on and you promise him the world and you turn him loose and let it go. If you're not so smart like me, then you keep your hands on it, and then it just takes things that much longer before they get going. So my advice is real simple. Surround yourself with good, talented people, pay them whatever it takes to keep them. And you're much better off than trying to do it all yourself or hire some people that are green and train them on everything, thinking you'll retain them longer. If you hire the green guy and you bring them up through the ranks, does work sometimes, but overall, surround yourself with the best people you can find, pay them what they're worth, build them, grow your business. That's been my experience so far.
Very good. And Miles, talk a little bit about your time involvement here now in the early days. How many hours a week would you say you're committing to that, and how flexible are you with that time?
Yeah. How much do I want to put in, right? I mean, that it really is all about that. There's always things to do if you want to do them, right? And I really enjoy a lot of this stuff, right? Some of it, not as much, but most of it I've had a blast doing. So I've really, going through the process myself, I was like, I could see myself doing this, and I haven't looked back since I've started. I've really enjoyed all the different aspects of it and learning all these different types of signs and all the different things that come with it. So from a time commitment standpoint, I'm very intentional with my time and how I've gridded out my week and what I allow myself to do, right? I have 2 young kids. I have a wife that works full-time for a global company. So I have duties in the morning with the kids that I have to do. And so then, sometimes I'm working late at night. Sometimes I do stuff on the weekends if I have to. And if there's anything with clients going, I make sure that I'm communicating with them and I'm not dropping the ball, right? I think that's the most important point. So from a time overall standpoint, I don't know, it's a lot of long days and long nights in the beginning, but I think the key takeaway is that I really enjoy it, right? And when you get some of those first early sales and then you see that number going up month over month, and you know you're building something, it's a pretty amazing feeling. So I I don't really look at it from a time commitment standpoint. I'm really focused on the results and like, you know, seeing what's happening and how we're moving the needle along. Yeah, and I think to what Randy just said, what's really allowed me to do that and focus on some of these pieces is that the person that I have, my first employee, has been really good. And I've been able to delegate more and more stuff as we've gotten more comfortable working together. So now he's doing all the proofs and he's sending the proofs and communicating with clients. He can take inbound sales phone calls and just kind of get the basics if I'm out visiting people. So yeah, having good people is really huge, and making sure that you find somebody that you're gonna like seeing every day when you walk through the door is big.
Very good. Jack, anything to add on time commitment, owner involvement?
1 minute. Before I answer, I'm going to start several slideshows. We'll go on in the background. There's no video to them. They're just be able to visualize a little bit more about who we are and what we do. The first slide goes to some of our locations inside now, so you can see what facilities look like. The second one goes to what is a sign, not only what can be made with the initial equipment, but what you'll need to outsource, at least temporarily, to bring in some of that equipment. And then that slideshow goes into showing some things that you wouldn't even think of as a sign, showing you the breadth of what we do. The third slideshow goes to some of our wall of fame, showing you some of the bigger projects that Signworld Owners have done, so you can see the scope of the work. You know, Jonathan, this is an active owner model for a couple of reasons. One, the projects are unique, and so it takes somebody to discuss them with the customer, to choose which ones to go after, and to custom price it. But I think the owners stay active in it because it is interesting that each product is unique and different. And I think both Randy's will tell you, even after years in business, they're still having to scratch their head on the next product of how exactly am I going to do it, how long it's going to take, and what materials to take, and what employees work on it. You know, a lot of the other franchise options you look at are more passive owner. And there's a couple of reasons. One, there's no role for the owner in there. It's, you know, unless you're going to cut hair or paint fingernails or do something like that, what's the role of the owner? And so we've chosen something that would keep us involved, keep us active, and enjoy it. And then the ones that want to hire the general manager and start to back themselves off some. But we've got a lot of owners been around 20, 25, and 30 years that will tell you they still enjoy getting up and going to work every morning because each day is a unique, fresh challenge.
And Jonathan, just to wrap this up, you know, when we look at time commitment of the owner in the early years, it's generally going to be a 60-hour work week. There's a lot that you're doing to build the business as you grow and mature as a company. That time commitment does start to reduce itself. But I think one of the great aspects of this, as you heard from Miles, is that it's fairly flexible. You're able to work the life events into your calendar and then work around that. And so, you know, obviously there's important client meetings and things that have to be done during the workday, but there are opportunities to sort of break away from the workday to do the life stuff. And from that, then you might end up putting some quotes together late at night or early in the morning. But again, you've got that opportunity to be flexible with your schedule while your team is very committed to that Monday through Friday 9 to 5 schedule. So hopefully that helps answer that for you, Jonathan.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let's go to Brian Dunn. And Brian, I think I got word that you might be driving and may not be able to jump on, but if you can, go ahead and take yourself off of mute and throw a question out to these owners. Okay, Brian may still be in listening mode. So with that, we'll go back to Tony. Tony, you got another question for the owners here that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, no, Tony here. Yeah, I'm just trying to whittle it down to one question. All right, so I've heard and seen the model of expanding the one site, you know, and I think I understand that that's what makes sense for Signworld and or maybe the sign business. I'm thinking of and I don't remember his name, out of Atlanta. He's got, I think they do like 10 million a year. They got 40 employees. And so I understand scaling from the one site and everything's on the internet. What does it look like? And is there a template for expanding into different sites, multiple sites, you know, via Signworld affiliation. And yeah, I think that's my question.
Sure. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So let's start with our owners, and they could talk a little bit about their one location model and some of the reasoning behind that. But Randy Hammock, kick us off. What are your thoughts around single location, multi-location? Um,
Well,
for
from our standpoint, I mean, um, you know, of course, we're situated along the Front Range of Colorado. You know, we're an hour north of Denver, and we do work all up and down the Front Range. I think if we were, you know, if we were going to expand our operation, we're an hour, Cheyenne, Wyoming is an hour north, and to really establish yourself and get work in a state like Wyoming, you have to have a presence up there. So that would lead me, and that would be the reason to open another location. Really, other than that, we can do what we're doing anyway out of a single location. So I think it really is going to depend on the type of signage I think you're going to do, and you know, if you do need to expand, you know, to several locations.
Yeah, very good. Randy Risley, thoughts about single location, multi-location business model?
I can't imagine having a second location. That's everything I can do to handle one. We went down the path of exterior electric signs a couple of years ago. Pandemic kind of changed our business model. We got licensed by the state to do electric signs and monument signs, structural signs. It's a requirement down here in Florida. Many states don't have those kind of requirements. There's a lot of work that we do with permits. It's an incredible amount of work. Right now, we're working with about 35 different municipalities doing permits where we're registered, and we've got a number of other potentials that we just haven't expanded into, and we're doing all that out of one site. If we did expand, we'd expand to another location in Florida just to help bridge the distance that we have to travel across the state. But the majority of our business is in the Tri-County area where we are down here. About 95% of our business is contained within these three counties. And luckily, about 70% of our business is right here in the city of Pompano Beach. Our goal very early on was to cast our net very narrow because windshield time is wasted time. And so we wanted to do everything we can to capture all the business in Pompano Beach. And once we've saturated that completely, expand from that. Doesn't always work that way. You're always going to get referrals that bring you outside. The internet brings you outside of that net. So really the Tri-County. But to go nationally, we'd be doing a different business model. We'd be doing something where we're producing signs for maybe other sign companies, or producing signs for specific industries, say the housing industry, and then we'd be marketing those on the internet. And even that, I don't know that we'd need multiple locations. We just do all that with the internet and shipping. So you certainly could do multiple locations and manage all of them like a corporation. That could be a super aggressive model that could get you very far. We just haven't nearly tapped what's right here around us yet. So I don't see for us that need. But it's all a matter of what you want to. The beautiful thing is you can build whatever you want to build. You can do it however you want to do it. There's so much opportunity in the sign business. It's amazing. It just, and you don't realize it till you get into it. But everybody needs a sign all the time. And it's crazy. It's a business of huge opportunity.
Very good, Randy. And so Miles, right there in the heart of wine country. Miles, multi-location, single location business? What are your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I think there's a scenario where it could make sense to have multiple locations potentially, but I think one thing to keep in mind that's, awesome about our model is that, you can do stuff all over and you're not restricted to your town, right? That was one of the things that really I was attracted to about Signworld. So I did something in Las Vegas already. I did something in Chicago, right? And those are opportunities that you can have, right? I mean, Jack mentioned he did a regional developer for subways, right? So I think when you think about growth and, increasing your revenue, it doesn't have to be limited to opening multiple locations, right? There's other ways to do it, right? And what Randy just mentioned, some owners might develop a niche where they get really big into that, and then they start doing that in different areas. So there's a lot of different ways I think you can approach it. And I had one owner, the very successful owner that I was talking to about this. And he just said to me, think about what you want to manage day to day. I realized I never wanted to manage more than 7 people. So he kind of contained it into that bucket because that's the business he wanted to have. So again, multiple locations, is that better? Is it more of a headache? So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. I definitely think that there could be scenarios where that would be a viable option to, expand and grow the business. There's a lot of ways to do it in the sign industry.
Very good. Thank you, Miles. Jack, anything to add on the multi-location approach?
Randy had a comment there. Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, just as soon as Miles mentioned the national account, we have a couple, and one of them right now is literally all over the country. We've tapped on a number of different Signworld owners to do the install for us. So we do all the production here. We do all the work with the national account, making sure that everything looks the same at every location. We ship it out, and we get one of our Signworld partners to go out and install it for us. So in that respect, yeah, we're all over the country, but yet we're not, So everything that everybody else just said, but there is that opportunity for working with national accounts, and the Signworld organization is fantastic because every time I pick up the phone and say, hey, can you help me? The first words are, sure, what do you need?
Jack, anything to add?
You could have multiple. There's so much value in doing this out of one location that you can simplify your life and scale from there. There's so much volume. Our largest operation did 40 million out of one location last year. So to have multiple locations doesn't necessarily make sense. You can be a lot more productive, a lot more profitable doing it out of one, not reinvesting in multiple locations. There are very, very few sign companies in the United States that have more than one location. It's really not that kind of an industry. Growing bigger from one is a much more efficient model.
I think the ability to be able to do digital marketing behind your brand as wide as you'd like to cover not just your local area, but your state, your region, across the country, gives you that room to take on projects and then leverage other sign companies or Signworld owners to get that work done. So there's different reasons for doing either way, but the goal is maximize profitability, and there's some opportunities to really do that more through a single location approach. But to add to that question, Tony, or the answer to that, we do have an option for a multi-location approach if that is something that you want to entertain or any owner wants to entertain. The question then becomes, is it a full production facility or is it a sales office? And there's some different agreements that we have in place for that, but there are opportunities to do that if you'd like. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's go for round 2 with Jonathan Williams. Jonathan, anything that you'd like to ask these owners and get a little more clarity on?
Yeah, first of all, I want to compliment you guys on the forum here. This is great, and I really appreciate the time. Unfortunately, I've got to jump at 3:00, but my question I have here is, it feels like, unlike some other models, and I know you guys aren't a true franchise model, things are pretty distinct in terms of you've got this area, you've got this location, this is kind of your business. Where here it feels like it's kind of, you have your area, but you also can go into other areas, and it just doesn't feel as defined. which in my mind tells me there's a lot of competition. And could you guys speak to that a little bit to help me understand a little bit more, like what you own, and then how it's not like the Wild Wild West in terms of you go
Sure.
get whatever business that's out there. I just need to grasp that a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off real quick by just clearly defining, how we construct our territories. So much like a franchise, we do put together territories that create protected buffer zones of where you, as a Signworld owner, are the only one that can locate within that buffer zone. This allows us to give each owner some protection within their local market to know that another Signworld owner is not going to be located too close to where they're at. But in addition, by creating these protected buffer zones, it also does limit oversaturating a marketplace. So, Jonathan, in your case, in the greater Atlanta market, there's only so many Signworld locations that can be within that market before we close it off, and no new locations can be located within Atlanta Metro. So every owner has that level of protection. However, there are no sales fences around those territories, giving the owners the freedom and the ability to market their business, market their products, and build and develop relationships with clients wherever they would like. And I think that's a big part of this, is that it is a very relationship driven business in regards to sales. So let's get into the competition part of it. Miles, let's start with you as a new owner. You're going to deal with a little bit more of the localized approach to this as you build and grow that brand. But talk a little bit about, first off, internal competition, maybe what you've seen within the Signworld network, and then talk a little bit about some of the external competition that you see in the marketplace.
Yeah, I have another Signworld owner in town, and I probably talk to him once a week, right? He's very helpful, always answers my questions, has helped me with installations. So from just an overall standpoint of, having a neighbor that's in network, I think a good majority of the owners that I've talked to have had the same, have had the same relationship with other local owners. So I haven't had any, weird interactions or anything like that. It's been great so far. I think the question is the question that everybody thinks about, right? Because you drive around and you see so many sign businesses and you say, how am I going to break into that? And you know what? You answer the phone and you show up when you're going to show up, and you're already doing a great job, right? A lot of the sign businesses in my town, as I've been growing this and I've gotten to learn about the competition, I'd say there's probably a couple that are really good, and then a couple that I've heard from other people they cannot get a response from. And I think that's pretty typical, right? A lot of these are small operations, might have one person doing everything, and they just don't have time to get back to everybody, right? So I think that there are a couple of good competitors in my market where I've lost a couple and I've won a couple, but I would say don't let that, get you too concerned, because there's going to be opportunities, right? You're going to meet people, you're going to have your local network, you're going to meet people in the chamber and B&I, and they're going to get to know you, they're going to give you business, your digital marketing is going to kick you business. It is crazy. So many people need signs. There's so many different things out there that you're gonna not have likely have a problem with the competition, and you're going to be able to set your mark. Now, when you start getting those jobs, very important that you do them well and that you do a really good job, interacting with the customers and, delivering on what you say you're going to deliver, because then they're going to spread the word, and then you're going to start getting referrals from them as well. So, yeah, that was one of my biggest concerns. And I haven't had too much in the way of a worry about the competition. And I actually know a lot of the other sign owners in town now as well. So there's that too.
Very good. Randy Risley, talk a little bit about internal and external competition.
Signworld being the internal, we've got a number of Signworld locations in Florida, less than 15 miles from me, a handful, and we don't talk enough because everybody's so busy. Right in my vicinity, there's over 20 sign shops. We've got a couple of big franchises, Fast Signs, Signorama, Couple of locations of both of those around us. I don't even know they exist. Our phone rings so much it drives me crazy. It's everything that Miles said. You know, everybody needs a sign, and if you build relationships with people, they tell people, and those people call you, and the people call you back when they move and when they want something different. It's I don't even know the name of all the different competitors we have around here. I know that a lot of times I get calls from people and they say, "Thank God you answered the phone. I've called 4 people and they all just go to voicemail and they never call me back." It's crazy. And quite honestly, there's times when I am very hard pressed to call customers back even within 24 hours, just because we get so hammered. So, the competition's out there. I don't feel it. And it's not because we're that fantastic. It's because there's that much business out there.
Very good. Randy Hammock, thoughts on internal, external competition?
Okay. Yeah, first of all, just what Miles and Randy said, just the same experience. Internally, Signworld, Connecting Signs is the next closest sign company to us. They're about 10 miles away. And Bruce Gardner and we have a great relationship. I think what's happened is, as we've both gotten really busy, we call each other when we really need something. Bruce calls me, he's out of a roll of vinyl and he's got, a project that he's got to. We've bid on a couple of projects, the same projects, and I think unfortunately for both of those, neither one of us got it. And then there's several other Signworld companies, and the same thing goes with them, especially the ones in the Denver area and between the northern Front Range. We have great relationships. We talk to these people, but none of us have really, like I said, I think Bruce and I are the only ones that have competed. The other thing that happens too is, we do specific types of signs and we get other Signworld, local guys calling us saying, "Hey, I got this customer, he wants this. We really don't want to do this." And it'll be, $50,000 project. And, we're like, "Yeah, we'll take that. We do that." So we run into a lot of that. So, and then, outside, just in the community, in my area, we have 2 really large sign companies that, we're this little bitty guy, I consider, compared to them. They got like 25 plus employees. And I see them on a lot of bid jobs, a lot of site walks, that kind of thing. And we just stay competitive. Sometimes we, don't get the jobs to them, and that's more of a matter of the bidding process. Outside of that process, we do get these phone calls. "Hey, I've, tried to get this other company to call me. They don't return my call." I do get them, engaged, or, the other company gets them engaged and then they don't respond in a timely manner, or they forget about them, they get something else going on. So, we have that, but I tell you, there is so much work in our area. I could actually get more business, but I can't. I don't really want to take on, more employees. I think we stay between 8 and 10, and we can do a lot of work with that, but we could get a lot more business. We just choose not to.
Very good. Jack, any additional thoughts on internal, external competition?
The reason we give a territory is to give you some space between each other and for us to not oversaturate the market, but out of that, regional national customers. Realize in the beginning, 10 projects is a good first month, 15 might be a good second month, 20 might be a good third month. Maturing business, you're probably going to process 50 to 100 projects, and most of those are repeats. So the chance you're bumping into another Signworld just don't exist. Plus, as they've talked, there are so many different categories of customers and projects. Each don't want the same thing. They find their own sweet spot and go that way. As far as other competitors, well, there's a lot of franchises out there. Collectively putting them together, they only have 9% of the population. Independents have almost 90% of the population. A few of them are good, legitimate sign companies, as I mentioned, but they've got bigger overhead and they're going after projects that are probably beyond what we want to go after. That leaves 90% of the independents, 80% total population of mom and pops. And like in any trade, those mom and pops were a former sign maker, good at making a sign, but now trying to run their own business, they have no business sense to them. They don't show up for the appointment on time. They don't deliver the quote as promised, and rarely deliver the project on time on budget. So what we're doing is the opposite. We're going to find people coming out of corporate America that understand business relationship, understand multitasking, understand delegating, providing software to quote, software to manage the products. You can actually deliver what the customer is asking. And there's going to be competition in any business out there. That's a sign that there is business out there.
Very good, Jack. Thank you for that addition there. Well, we are approaching the end of the hour, and we do want to be mindful of everybody's time. For our guests, we want to encourage you to continue through your discovery and validation process. There's a lot of opportunity for you to continue to dig in more, whether it is through additional webinars, both live and recorded. It's through validation conversations with owners and being able to do that one-on-one, perhaps also going in and visiting owners in their location. We'd also encourage you at some point in your process to consider attending a discovery day. Our next discovery day for consideration would be at our annual conference. It's a unique opportunity not only to meet a lot of Signworld owners and vendors, vendor partners that have to explore a lot within the sign industry, but also have an opportunity to sit in classroom sessions and see a little bit of what goes into some of the training there. That discovery day, again, is a unique one in conjunction with our annual conference. We'll be holding that on Friday, May 3rd in Frisco, Texas. If you'd like more information, feel free to reach back to your representative at Signworld that you may be working with as you go through your discovery phase. But for today, we want to thank our guests for joining in and bringing some questions to the group here. Hopefully you got a little bit more clarity as you continue through your process. To our panel of owners, we appreciate you taking the hour here out of your busy days to share some insight and helpful information with these guests. So with that, again, we will close for today. Thank you everybody for joining in and have a great finish to your week.
Thanks, guys.